name is Warren.
I'm Will.
Between the two of us, we are Warren and Will's Wild Wine Reviews, and welcome to, I think this is the 9th one we're shooting.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if it'll be the 9th one you'll see. Not sure how that's going to go. You know,
like Firefly, our episodes air out of order.
Yeah, it's possible. It's quite possible. So today we are going with Calluna 2012. It is a really nice Bordeaux blend. Bordeaux.
Yep. Yep. Chalk Hill AVA of the Sonoma Valley, California. We had this last year, around this time, maybe a little later.
I've had about a case of this.
Yeah, you brought it to Mountain Lake.
Yep.
Where they shot Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, that is correct. We ate there, looking down at the empty lake.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like a crater in the middle of the mountain.
For whatever reason, the lake has cracked and
yep,
the water
at the bottom,
is
yep.
Most of the water is drained out. And they used to call it's called Mountain Lake, and it used to be MT period lake.
Yeah.
And then people realizing they were calling it Empty Lake rather than empty. Now every single sign has been changed to Mountain Lake.
Yep.
And it's really it's about
Truth
the size of my pond, and there's this.
I think your pond is bigger.
It could very well be. I could go into fairly great detail because my next door neighbor at our place on the lake is a geologist who actually worked on it, and basically they're like, well, we know this has happened in the past, and we want it to fix itself naturally.
Yeah,
which is cool, and they're right. It will. It could be 5,000 years because we're talking geological time scales, and they don't seem to know the difference between geological and
regular
human time scales. Because if it were me, I would just pay somebody to put down a liner and get the lake back because they were making a lot of money.
Sometimes you got to swallow your pride in that sort of thing.
And they're not doing that.
Yeah.
They don't seem to. I mean, listening to people talk about it, they may not understand.
Right.
I don't know. So at any rate, let's get on to the wine. And this has a marvelous nose.
A lot of black fruit.
A lot of black fruit. I've got pipe tobacco in there.
Yeah, some of that vanilla-y, smoky sort of
vanilla pipe tobacco.
Are you getting any stone, any like mineral characteristics?
I'm getting cola.
Okay. I'm getting a tiny bit of what I think of as that black slate pre-Arat like granite backdrop, but it's basically a whisper.
This is a very nice mouthfeel. It's a little bit
more dried fruit.
More tart than the last 11 bottles of this that I've had. So I don't know what to say there. Perhaps I had something too sweet beforehand. It's tasting a little tartar than I'm used to. Again, I've had a case of this.
Right.
This one's
we got to figure at 10 years. I mean, it's undergoing some evolution into, there's when not that it doesn't have more time on it, it does. But as you go forward into the wine's lifespan, you reach these successive phases. And it might be
just a month ago. It was freaking amazing.
Oh, a month ago. Okay, never mind that. I retract it.
Yeah. So when we had the one that you and I had with your dad, that was less than a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way I ended up with this wine, and I've talked about this sort of thing before, is I was doing an order through, I think, wine.com or Yanni's or someplace, and there goes the bird. That one actually is
a kingfisher?
That is a kingfisher. They're really loud. They don't like people. They'll leave in a few minutes. But at any rate, I needed one more to fill out a order and to get free shipping, and the bottle was less than the shipping.
Yeah.
So I had them throw that in. It was a 2012. I don't know what it was doing there. It was going for $25.
Yeah.
I looked it up. Normally I could find it for $100, $50. I'd never had it before, but for $25, I went ahead and bought it. And got it, opened it, and before I finished the first glass, I had ordered all the other ones that they had, and I got all of them because it was marvelous. Again, I'm a little disappointed with what I'm tasting right now, but the other 11 bottles were fantastic.
Even though it's been decanted, I assume it's still opening up.
It's been decanted for an hour.
Okay, well.
Yeah, so there's just way more cranberry going on than I would prefer right now,
and more dried fruit. It's also worth noting that when we had it at Mount Lake, we had it with food, which can totally change the overall texture.
Though I've had it without food.
Yeah.
So to give you a little of the information on this is Calluna 2012. This is their the Bordeaux blend and Cuvee, I think they call it.
Yep.
So what we're looking at, at Vivino, it gets 4.1 stars out of 5 with 142 ratings. They say the average price is $43 a bottle.
Right.
I have seen it for exactly two prices: $100 a bottle and $25 a bottle. I've never seen it anywhere else.
Right.
And currently, you can't buy the 2012
Right.
anywhere. I couldn't find it for sale anywhere. You can get the 2014 for $74.99 at wine.com. You can also order directly from there, but you can only get 2018 and on
Right.
unless you buy, and I'm really tempted to buy the case. They have
Yeah.
a curated case, and it looks like, based on the pictures, if that's what you get, all 2014 and 2015.
Okay.
And it has their cab, it has this, it also
Yeah.
has their Merlot, and I think they have one white that they put one or two whites
Yeah.
in there.
Well, the thing is that at that level, it's probably worth contacting them and being like, hey, I really liked your 2012, and I definitely want to buy some stuff from you. Like, how do you think the 2014, 2015, and 2018 are all doing? Like, what's
Well,
your
the reviews? I see the reviews on Vivino, and they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
All the way across through their entire time. These
Yeah.
guys have been around. Let's see, when did they start? It's Calluna Vineyards, founded in Sonoma County's Russian River Valley in 2005 by David A. Jeffrey.
Wow, 2005.
2005, 12 acres in the Chalk Hill Appellation. Before founding the winery, he spent 3 years studying wine and working at Chateau, who knows, Quinault-les-Enclos in Bordeaux, France.
Quinault-les-Enclos, yeah.
Yes, you can buy the 2018 directly from them, and other than that, I only see newer and more expensive bottles than these were. Now, again, I don't think you could get these for $25 normally. Yeah. I think they just found them in the back and didn't know what kind of shape they were in.
The
so
phenomenon.
They blew them out.
The phenomenon that we've talked about before, where cases or a pallet get lost in a warehouse somewhere, and they just want to blow them out and get rid of them.
And if they can sell them cheaply, then if people come back to them and say, it was terrible, you go, well, what would you expect for $12 a bottle?
Exactly.
Or in this case, a $100 bottle for $25.
Like you were talking about that time that you saw the wine at Kroger, and the guy said, I'm selling it at cost to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And it was a Napa cab that clearly was not going to have gone bad in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so I, of course, had to get it, and did, and it was marvelous. Again, this of all of my finds, this has been my favorite unexpected one.
Yep.
Now, again, I'm drinking this one, and I'm going to be honest, it's not quite what the other 11 bottles in the vintage were.
Yeah.
This one might have been on the edge. It's the last one we're drinking. I don't know.
It's
still good.
It's interesting to watch how much spread there is once you get past a certain point. When you release a wine after the first year or two, you can expect the bottles, barring some kind of bacterial infection, or being left in direct sunlight, to be more or less within a certain range. But after a certain point, it's like they start to diverge. It's like firing a shotgun. One ends up over here, one that ends up over here. And this is what I find neat about this is a Merlot based.
More Merlot.
Yeah, Merlot based blend. Now, granted, it's 36% Merlot, 24% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Cabernet Franc. So it's not exactly like predominantly.
And 10% Petit Verdot and Malbec.
And Malbec. Yep, they've got
all
all five
of the big ones to really open it up. I mean, this is your typical, when we say Bordeaux blend and we're talking about Americans, it's got all five. Unlike, the Bordeaux blend that we did from Bordeaux that had two.
Yep, just Cabin Merlot, the two major
big
ones.
Yep.
There is one major Bordeaux. I want to say it's Cheval Blanc, which is predominantly Cabernet Franc based, but that's really, really uncommon. You don't run across that very much.
And I will also say this: I do like Bordeaux's. This is better than your typical French Bordeaux blend generally.
Right.
I mean, this particular bottle, but again, I've had 11 of them that I know with the same year.
Right.
That were all outstanding, and this one's just pretty good.
Well, and the thing about French Bordeaux is, you compare the maritime climate of Bordeaux to the. I don't know exactly what Napa's.
River Valley.
Yeah, I mean the thing is I imagine it's probably close to maritime, but the thing about California is it's so different from
it's huge.
From the coast of France.
And so of course you're gonna have lots of different climates.
And this is 14.2% by volume, which I believe is probably a little bit higher than most Bordeaux's would be. I guess it depends on the Bordeaux.
As far as that goes.
Yeah, no. It's at a standard, actually maybe a little bit lower than usual.
I wonder if this would have been improved by the blender.
Maybe.
So here's what's going on here. I want to give a shout out to my favorite physicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I had a buddy sneak into his house and steal his vest so that I could wear it tonight. We'll sneak it back in before he gets home. So
I thought it was just because of the summer solstice. But
yeah, well, that would make sense too. So yeah, I saw this on eBay. And I was like, oh my God, that's Tyson wears that.
Yeah.
I gotta buy this. And I go to his shows whenever he's in the area because my daughter had wanted to be a physicist before she decided that she would prefer to be a showrunner. She wants
nice.
She wants to be a Star Trek showrunner.
That's
which
awesome.
is why she's doing a lot of video.
Yeah.
And why she's editing our videos for us. But at any rate, he is a Tyson is a wine geek like us. And one of the things he mentioned at one of the many of his talks that I've been to is that they discovered that if you put wine in a blender and you turn the blender on, when you pour it into the glass, if people don't know that, they like it more. Now,
Right.
it turns out they tried it with nitrogen, argon, and oxygen, and pretty much it was the same. So it's the blending and not the oxidization that did it. So thanks, Neil. You're the reason I know that bit of information. And there's the thing, doesn't matter where you go. If you listen, you might pick up some wine knowledge. I did not expect when I went to listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about the moons of Jupiter and the moons of Saturn. So when I went to listen to him talk about the moons of Jupiter and the moons of Saturn, I had no idea I was going to get a bit of wine knowledge I didn't have.
Yeah.
Now I've known, there's the Molly Duker shake. They tell you to shake the wine. They say it does something to the nitrogen.
Well,
which
the thing is it's not true because after you open the bottle and pour a glass out, I mean, there's ambient nitrogen in the air, but they claim that they bottle their wine under nitrogen, and they, instead of using sulfites, which is impossible because there's sulfites in every wine. Yeah.
Well,
there's no added sulfites.
Right,
yeah.
They don't add any.
But they also claim that you're aerating the wine with nitrogen, and you're not. You're aerating with
whatever
ambient air.
goes into it.
Yeah, well, ambient air, which is.
I guess they want you to shake it before you open it.
I mean, the thing is, the Molly Duker shake does work. It's it's you're not.
People are gonna. I don't have any wine in here, so I'm not doing it. But doing that actually will. If
Absolutely.
you've got a little bit of space, it'll aerate the wine and it can improve the taste. Everybody there will think you're a Philistine and not trust anything else you have to say about wine. Should you do that at a party? But you will actually be the one doing the correct thing with the correct intention.
Right.
Despite it looking geeky as all get out.
We also found out when I worked at Vintage Cellar that it works very well for. We've talked before about how some wines are immediately funky when you open them up.
And this one is not.
Yeah, no, it's not. But if you have a wine that's very funky, the sulfur compounds in the wine that cause the funky aroma are some of the most volatile. And giving it a good hard shake for 5 to 10 seconds.
Doing that.
What you can do is, my friend Martin and I did this several times with wines that were funky. Basically, what you do is when you take the cork out and you hear a foomp, you basically shake it until you no longer hear that foomp sound, and that tells you that you've released most of the most volatile compounds from it. And at that point, the wine will be moderately to extremely less funky than it was at first blush. So
you can also, these guys have some wine clubs that you can join on their
cool.
website. We'll have a link to that.
I am not familiar with Chalk Hill AVA, unfortunately.
I didn't know anything about these guys, but I was very happy when I got the wine.
The sad thing is that when I was working at Wine Lab, I realized the dearth of my knowledge about California and West Coast wine regions. They can actually get remarkably down to a very small little area.
This one's only 15 acres.
Mm-hmm, yeah, you have AVAs and sub-AVAs of larger regions. I found a wonderful. I think it might have been subsidized by the state of California, but it was an interactive wine map of the entire state, and it was so helpful because California is massive, and they grow wine everywhere from San Diego all the way up to
It's bigger than most European countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so having that interactive wine map was so helpful because as a Virginian, I know what the shape of California looks like, and I have a rough idea of where cities are. But I don't necessarily know where all the wine regions are. No,
I mean I can point out L.A. and San Francisco
right.
and San Diego
and Eureka. You get up close to Oregon.
But I probably couldn't point to Napa. I've never been to Napa. I need to go to Napa because I love Napa cabs so much.
They have that Bay Area. I mean, they're a little bit north, but they have that Bay Area influence.
Yeah.
And huge diurnal variation. I mean, you know, we're talking like sometimes I don't know how cold it gets, but you know, in the summertime, down in the 40s or 50s at night, and up to the 90s in the day. I mean, massive amounts of variation. And it's part of the reason it's so renowned as a wine region. Same thing goes for Paso Robles.
Yep.
Paso Robles does get hotter in general, which is why you find a lot of Zinfandel and more like Italian and south of France style field blends. But I think they can do Pinot Noir in Paso Robles. I could be mistaken.
I wouldn't know because
you don't drink it. Yep.
Yeah, I was watching one of our videos to go through it for editing, and I realized I said that I love Burgundy. In one, I was like, I
think you meant Bordeaux.
I do not love Burgundy because if it's a Burgundy wine, it's Pinot Noir.
Yep.
And I don't like Pinot Noir. So if you saw that, I misspoke. I'm just not a Pinot Noir. I mean, I can drink it. I don't hate it.
Right.
But I mean, you know.
I still remember
that
one Monterey Pinot Noir that you bought. You came by Wine Lab specifically to tell me that you bought a Pinot Noir, and it was from Monterey.
I don't. I mean, I remember that. I don't remember the.
If we searched for you for Vino, we could probably find it.
We could probably figure it out. So the other neat thing that I discovered as a result of buying this wine is, you know, you probably hear the word algorithm. Amazon has an algorithm. Twitter has an algorithm. Facebook has a mean, let's see if we can destroy America algorithm and keep everybody mad at each other.
Yep.
Vivino has an algorithm when it comes to you can buy wine straight out of the app.
Right, recommended for you.
So one of the things that was happening to me is it was forever just showing me $100 to $500 bottles of wine.
Right.
Because that's what I was purchasing. So that was all I was seeing. Now, the way I ended up with this is that I found some wines that I wanted from one of the sellers. And then once you put some into your cart, you can then say, keep shopping, and they keep shopping with that one particular vendor so that you can get the reduced shipping.
Right.
So I purchased this when I was in that section, and that same thing happened to me in one or two other places. And then suddenly I started noticing they were showing me the 4 to 5 star wines that were reduced in price for some reason.
Yeah.
So that were a special deal, and the algorithm figured out that I would definitely spend money on these less expensive wines that should be more expensive and are better, and for whatever reason are being sold at a lower price. And so after I bought this, Vivino is starting to show that to me. So suddenly I'm able to buy lots of really special wines, and now I'm dropping less than $100 a pop. When I was doing 1 to 5, now it's 25 to 50. So you want to, when you're purchasing wines from anywhere that uses algorithms, you want to think about, what is it that I want to accomplish? How can I influence that algorithm in a way to make me happy, not to make them happy? I mean, they have the algorithm so they can make money, and that's great, but I want an algorithm that gives me wines that I like.
Well, and also if you're buying more, everybody's making money.
That is true. That is true. But the algorithm would just look at what you spent your money on.
Right.
And so if you could find a way to impress upon them that you want really good wines at lower prices, you can actually influence your ability to find them by buying a couple, because then they will start showing them to you.
Yeah. It's kind of like that game Mastermind, where you have to guess someone's code, and it's all about pattern recognition, and they tell you how far you off, or how far off you are, or how close you are. And that's all the algorithm is doing. It's just going, okay, I recommend this. Okay, didn't buy it. That was off. I recommended that, and he bought a case of it.
The only other thing I would say is they constantly send me emails. This is the one thing Vivino does wrong. Saying, you scanned a wine. Here, try another one just like it. I'm like, yeah, I scanned the wine,
and
I didn't like the wine based on the reviews, and I didn't buy it. So Vivino, stop telling me that based on my scan that I might like this wine. Why don't you just look at anything I gave 4 or more stars and say based on that? Because with that, you're correct. With a lot of these, I scan them and go, oh, well, that wine's terrible, and I don't buy them. And so then you telling me you found another wine that's just as good as the wine I decided wasn't good enough, it doesn't help me at all.
It's like making eye contact with somebody at a party, and they come over to talk to you, and it's like, oh, yeah, sorry.
I noticed you were looking at me. Yeah,
my eyes were just kind of in that direction.
You're standing underneath the cloud.
Oh, man. I want a little bit more of this. I think it's softening up a bit. I was picking up less acidity and more of a kind of like not quite chalky, although that would be.
See, the thing is, I didn't, and that may be in the issue. I did not actually decant the other ones. It's just it was good enough. I thought I would.
Right.
For this, and now I'm thinking I probably shouldn't have.
We decanted it at Mountain Lake, didn't we?
Nope.
No, we didn't. Okay. Huh.
Now if they opened it.
That's right. Yeah. That's yeah. I guess they probably wouldn't have had a decanter. I don't think.
No, I would be stunned if they had a
seemed pretty
decanter.
rudimentary as far as
they
wine
didn't have
went.
any good wines on the
Right.
list, so I didn't expect them to.
Which is-
and the guy there was having a real hard time opening the bottle.
Yes, I remember that.
And there's no trick to opening this bottle.
No.
So he just
If you haven't had the practice, it is difficult.
and they don't have a great wine list. So
Yeah.
apparently people don't necessarily buy
Right.
a lot of wine there. I mean, I wouldn't purchase a wine there, but we brought our own. They
Yep.
charged us the corkage fee, whatever that happened to be. It's like $12 or something.
I'm just kind of surprised. They're a resort near Blacksburg. They should have a semi-decent wine list.
Yeah, they
would think.
should, but I mean, they're aiming at a different group.
I guess
If you look
so.
at the people that were there, if you look at the food that they had, it was very much a mountain kind of
I guess
thing.
so.
They weren't. It's not Primlin. They weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't aiming at
Still,
rich
there was like a
people.
charcuterie board and
There
stuff like
was,
that.
There
So
was, but
I mean, one of the things I've noticed is the restaurant can really up its game food wise, and the especially the wine list can take a long time to catch
Yeah.
up. They might have a good bourbon selection, they might have draft beers on tap, and the wine list is still stuck in the 1990s.
I've also been to restaurants where new cooks came in who weren't any good.
Yeah.
But somebody had curated their wine list
Yep.
a long time ago, and
Yep.
they bought cases and cases. And so while the restaurant's been horrible for 2 or 3 years, the wine list will be great for another decade until people drink their way through it.
There has been a categorical difference between the places I've worked where the people in charge of the food had an interest in wine, not necessarily to the same level that I did,
Yep.
which is understandable. Their passion is food, but versus the places where the chef had no interest in the wine whatsoever.
Yeah.
When I was at Wine Lab, the last chef that was there before I left, we were doing a wine tasting one day, and I was like, "You want to join us?" And he wasn't like being rude or anything. He's just like, "No, I don't have any interest." And I felt a little sad because it's like
I want to know how it tastes with my food.
Well, not only that, it's like I want to do stuff with you, man. I want to collaborate. I want us
Yeah.
to come up with cool stuff together.
But if he doesn't like wine,
Well, and that's the thing is that one of the things that's really important is the front of house back of house divide. Not only needs to heal, the kitchen needs to know about stuff like the wine list and the beverage list and stuff because they're cooking for people who aren't just having the food on its own. They're having it with other stuff as well. And that kind of harmony and that kind of cross-channel communication is so important. It's important not just for the back of house. It's important for me, the sommelier. It's like, what are you doing in the kitchen? What are you trying to do? What because I'm buying stuff. What do I need to buy that's going to work well with what you're doing?
What I don't like is when I go to a restaurant and I ask to change the way it's being dressed or something.
Right.
And they're like, no, our chef wants you to appreciate it the way he made it. I'm like, great for your chef, but does your chef know what my taste buds do?
Right.
Because your chef thinks he knows how it tastes.
Right.
But he doesn't have my taste buds. Like, I don't like a lot of, I eat Mexican food, but I stay away from, because I really, really super taste cumin.
Right.
So if you put cumin into anything, I'm like, oh my God, there's too much cumin. And other people are like, I don't taste it. Well, I do. And it's like that for a lot of spices. I can taste them when other people can't.
Right.
So I've got this guy telling me, you got to eat it this way. And I'm like, yeah, if I wanted to eat it that way, I'd order it that way.
Right.
I just don't. Well, that's, I'm the chef. This is my job. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, but I'm going to eat it and you're not.
Well, and there's a difference between like asking for ketchup with a steak or
Which I don't do, but yeah.
Right, but if you're just asking a chef to omit something, that's not the same as like telling him how to do his job and telling him like to make the sauce a different way. You're literally just asking for an omission of something. It's like if you don't like tomato and you ask for it not to be put on your hamburger, it's not really all that big of a deal.
Right.
It's just a matter of preference.
I've been in a sushi bar where I asked for some for some spicy stuff. Wasabi, and the guy was like, this one's not meant to be done with this wasabi. You may not have it. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to eat it. I'm either going to eat it the way I want it or I'm not going to eat it at all. And I'm never coming back if you tell me that. I mean, I know you're a chef. I know you've had all that training, but you don't taste with my mouth.
Right.
I do.
Well, and the thing is that, I might personally disagree with someone's choice, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have any. It's they're paying customer.
Why do they care?
Yeah, why? You know, and I can tell you one thing. The chef might care. Your server does not care.
Oh, that's for sure.
You can get it however you want as far as the server is concerned. They just might know whether or not the chef is willing to do it.
Yeah, this is opening now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like it's evolving. That's one of the things that's cool about
these. Should. I don't think there's any mega purple in here at all.
No, none.
No liquid smoke.
Definitely not.
This is a high-end, well-made wine.
Yep. And one of the things I think it's really cool about doing wines like this with the video format is I don't want to say this doesn't get talked about a lot, but I feel like it gets overlooked. Is wine evolves within the glass. We talk about this pretty regular amount, and I really want to hammer it home that, you know, when you're enjoying wine with friends, or if you're out at a bar and you're just ordering a glass, it's like, okay, you know, that glass might not evolve.
All that vegetable
yeah, it's a tartrate crystals, right there. So that tells you they didn't cold stabilize it, or if they did, they didn't completely cold stabilize it. And they were going for that European type of thing.
And I like that.
Yeah, me too. That tells me they know what they're about, and they're going for a style. But you know, glass by and large, especially if the bottle's, you know, already been open for a little while. But if you're enjoying a bottle like this with just one or two friends, the wine will change in the glass.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that you have to appreciate that or that it's necessary. You're missing out if you don't. But it's one of those things to pause and go, wow, this is really different than it when we opened it 30, 45 minutes ago or decanted it or whatever.
I love that. That's part of what I'm drinking for, is to see how it changes from when I open the bottle to when I take that final sip.
Yeah, and sometimes a given bottle can evolve really quickly, or it can evolve very slowly, and sometimes it might even go downhill a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're just watching the natural progression.
It's also interesting, you know, to taste it over the couple of years in a case. You know, I've been back for a year and a half. I probably got this in the first week I was back. So it's about a year. I drank 12 bottles, probably about one a month for a year. And then the last one I'm a little disappointed at. But again, the first 11 were great. The 2014 is really highly rated, so you can find that one. You know, if you don't mind blowing the $80, I would do that. And if you want to do it for a little cheaper, then you can get it straight from their website and get the 2018.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting, I mean, obviously this is going to hold true for wines like this one, but, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be in that price range.
Right.
When I worked at Chateau and we released wine, you know, like we talk about the 2005 Petit Verdot, if we released a wine like that, I would tell people, you know, if you really like this, you might want to buy, not necessarily a case, but maybe a case, I don't know, buy a greater than one number of bottles and try them every, 3 to 6 months and see how it's doing. You'll be able to graph it yourself.
And tell when it's time to drink it. Now, what can be really kind of interesting, and you may not know this, is that there are places that make half bottles. And what I like to do, if I get a case of something, is to buy, if I can, 4 or 5 half bottles. Now, the thing about the half bottles is they age twice as fast as the full bottle, which ages twice as fast as a Magnum. The more wine you have, the slower it ages.
Right.
But what's good about that is you got these half bottles, and so you're 3 years in, and you're like, wow, I wonder how it'll taste. And you drink it. Well, that's a year and a half of these bottles.
Right.
So when you find that perfect place, and then the next time you open one, and it's not as good as the time before, well, you didn't just put a whole case into that place where it's not as good as the time before. You know when to drink the whole case by, and the half bottles are a great indicator of that. So with certain wines, if I can get my hands on them, not everybody makes them anymore.
Right.
And the Corvin, unfortunately, is kind of slaying them.
Right.
Because a lot of people would buy those to get the smaller bottle in the restaurant so they could drink the whole bottle. And now, you can get good wine with the Corvin, and they just pour it in, and so they don't hold. A lot of places don't have the half bottle anymore because,
it's being wiped out slowly.
It's being wiped out by the ability to pour one really good glass from the Corvin. So that's a thing. So they're harder to find.
I don't know.
But I like them. I like them because they make it easy for me to tell when what the window is, and I'll know how big the window is too.
It's a little canary in your coal mine. Yeah.
So you have it, and you're like, oh, this is perfect. And so you start drinking a few, and then you have it a year later, and you're like, oh, this is even better. Well, then, you just keep going until it's not better, and then you know when to drink the full-size bottles.
And by extension, if the full-size bottles are starting to drink well, and you're able to acquire a Magnum, and they still make Magnums.
Yep.
Fairly regularly.
I don't have a lot of them. I've got one Magnum from 2009.
They're more common to find, unfortunately, with higher end stuff. It's I'm not saying it's impossible to find Magnums.
With crap at Food Lion.
Well, the thing is actually they're
Liberty Hill. Or...
Well, you know where it's actually more common to find Magnums of mid range stuff is sparkling wine. Because the thing is, if you have a celebratory occasion, you're going to be pouring more sparkling wine. You're not so going to want one bottle. You're going to want two, and you got two in one handy bottle right here, one and a half, whatever it might be. So you will find it with sparkling wines, but with red wines, it's relatively common for Napa and Sonoma, California producers to do Magnums of some of their better stuff. Now, the nice thing about those is, as you said, they age twice as slowly as a regular bottle.
Right.
So if a bottle is drinking well right now, you can be assured that, if you've been watching its progression, be like, okay, like 3 years from now, that Magnum's going to be ready. So you can go back in time.
Yeah, almost. Exactly. Almost very much like traveling backwards and forwards through times with the wine.
So if you're lucky enough to have a half bottle, a full bottle, and a Magnum of a wine, you can both simultaneously go forward and backward in time, depending on, what you're doing at any given moment.
So I want to tell the guy who told me I should wear a thong when we do these things because it would bring more people in. Dude, it's just uncomfortable, and I don't know why anybody would look at me and even think I was wearing a thong. It didn't work, bro. I can't imagine
And we have to do it on camera.
Obviously, I'm just making that up. That's just a joke. Everybody's always like, "Ooh, make sure there's somebody with a thong."
Well, that's only because we bring up OnlyFans, and that's their first thought because their minds are in the gutter.
Yeah, well, not all of them. But
no, not all of them. But the thing about OnlyFans is that it has that cachet, but it's used for more than such things.
We'll see what happens.
I
mean, we are right now filming our 9th video.
Yes.
Our first video goes live on Thursday, and that we can't set up any of the things we'd like to set up until it's live.
Right.
Well, I mean, we could set up the OnlyFans and the Patreon, but nothing else will let you in until they see your site and see that it's worth it.
Yep.
And in fact, Vivino actually says if we think you are worthy of being in our
that's something
affiliate
to aspire
program.
to.
Well, I'm like, we're both Vivino featured users, so we might be worthy.
Certainly. I kind of like it though. It's kind of like a role playing game where you have to get to a certain level before you can get into a building or a bar, or pick a lock or something. I like it. It gives me something to aspire to.
I'm pretty sure that they'll all say yes once they see our
probably
website.
So.
Because our web mistress, my wife Angela, is just outstanding.
She does a very good job.
We were also, as you'll see, if you go to the website, you'll find that we're doing one video a week, and she's doing a travel article blog each week, and we're taking turns doing written blogs. So there's one written blog, there's one video, and right now, for at least the first couple, we're going to do a transcript of the blogs. But that's turning out to be more work, the video blogs, than I had thought it would be. So we'll see how that works out. It's also 15,000 words.
Yeah.
And ideally, you want to be between 1,000 and 3,000 on the web.
Right.
So I don't know if anybody's going to read that. We're going to put out a couple of them.
Yeah.
And then based on your reaction to them, they may or may not continue.
Warren's been texting me, asking me certain things that I was saying, because I throw out different things, like it was Chenayan up in Washington.
Never heard of them.
And Lake Cole 41, and I was just thinking, like,
once you said Lake Cole, I've got some of that in my cellar.
That does not surprise me. That seems right up your alley.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, if I ever go past something too quickly or don't enunciate clearly enough, I should probably tell people, feel free to ask or, whatever. Because
at least while we're doing they'll pop a week after we drop the video.
Right.
We'll drop the transcripts. So I'm going to do at least 3 of those so that you folks can have an opportunity. Of course, here I am talking to you about it in week 9, and it's either dead or it's not going to die at this point. So I don't know why I'm even talking about it. There's a number of people here in Floyd who are aware of what we're doing and are really super excited about it. I'm like, you haven't seen our content yet, and they're going, I don't care. I'm sure it's going to I have lots
they're
of
really
Facebook
excited.
friends saying the same thing.
I was talking with Ben and Joanna Toll.
A few years back, I stopped putting my reviews up on Facebook and Instagram because I'm from an Irish family, and a number of my cousins have issues with alcohol. A number of my cousins died as a result of alcohol.
Right.
Now, my brother and I don't seem to have that issue.
Right.
And that's, probably
Genetic.
That's genetic.
Yeah.
But I stopped putting them there because I didn't want to put some of my favorite people in the world
Totally.
through that. So now I'm feeling kind of like terrible because I'm going to have to start using those to kind of push this at least for a little while till it gets out of its own.
I mean, the thing is that I had the same discussion with my dad one time when I was having dinner with a friend of mine who's been sober for over a decade now. And I said, I totally am okay with not ordering wine at dinner if it would make him uncomfortable, but I kind of would like to have a glass of wine with dinner. And he said, well, how long has he been sober? I said, over a decade. And he said, I would go ahead and do it because the thing is his sponsors are telling him that it's good for him to be around people who are drinking and to not drink, because the thing is, I'm not saying to put yourself in the way of temptation, but you can't it's basically impossible to be out.
It's everywhere in our culture.
It's everywhere in our culture.
It's hard to go out
Right.
and hang out with people without alcohol and food being involved.
Right.
So here I am wishing that I did not weigh 220 pounds and gunning for 180, and I'm working out a lot harder
Right.
than I was, looking at these videos and going through. I'm the one who goes through and puts in where the links should be. Like, oh, we mentioned all these people. Here are links.
Yeah.
Here are the things I'd like to see cut out. I'm the one making those decisions.
Right.
That means I'm staring at my fat face, and I'm not okay with it. I was skinny as hell in high school. I was a waif when I was in a rock and roll band, and now I'm not.
Right.
So I am working on that. I anticipate that I will indeed, as long as I keep looking at these videos, I will continue to keep losing weight.
Yep. The joys of slower metabolism.
Right. And that's the thing that slays me is I don't eat enough
Right.
to really have issues with weight, but it being almost 60.
What's
It
really
does make
interesting
it
is
harder.
my mom did my dad a huge favor in I want to say like the 10 to 15 years before she died. My mom got really super into it. I guess it's like a modified keto. I don't think she was into keto, but she arrived at the same conclusion by a different path. So she ended up putting my dad on a low grain, no wheat, high meat, some vegetable diet. And as a result, my dad basically stopped eating lunch. He eats a small breakfast and a relatively large dinner. And that's it.
In my case, I don't eat breakfast. I have 2 cups. I have two 14-ounce glasses of coffee, sometimes 3.
Wow.
For breakfast. And then, right now I'm doing, because I work out a lot,
Yeah.
I'm doing intermittent fasting. That actually, if you only eat 1 meal a day, and that's what I'm doing, I'm eating between basically 6 and 8 o'clock. I allow myself to eat, and I'll eat whatever.
Yeah.
Because I'm not eating breakfast or lunch right now. So
Right.
I'm not trying to cut back on the calories by much. I'm only trying to have a 500 calorie deficit.
Right.
So I'm eating a lot of food in that hour.
Right.
But if you do that, you actually it instructs your body to give you more HGH. It then tells it, hey, don't when you burn fat, don't build muscle, don't burn your muscle, because you're having trouble finding food, so you need your muscle. Of course, we're not having trouble finding food because we don't live in that world anymore. But the body doesn't know that.
Right.
So, I remember I was telling my trainer, I was going to do this, and he was trying to talk me out of it, and he was telling me how I could break my metabolism. I'm like, oh, that's not true. It's all a load of crap. And I sent him the links to it, and he's like, yeah, we'll see. And then that week was the best week I ever had in the gym, and he was just like,
scientific evidence.
okay, that was, you did a PR on everything, and I don't even go for PRs because I'm old enough that I'm not really interested in tearing ligaments to prove I'm a stud. it's not there for me. I'm not 22. I don't care. I just want to be in good shape and look good naked.
Yeah.
So, but at any rate, because of that, he started doing more research, and then I actually heard him talking to somebody. They're like, "Oh, that's a load of tosh." He's like, "No,
it's not."
He's like, "That's what I thought too, but I did a little bit of research, had a client or two do it, and it works."
Well, here's the thing: he didn't just do research; he had scientific evidence staring him in the face.
He logs exactly how much weight I'm moving. Of what each exercise. He keeps all of those records, so we know right where I am and what I have to do at any given time. And that was the best week I ever had. So, I don't know that you guys really want to be here for our diet conversations, but, intermittent fasting works, even with wine.
Here's why this fascinates me is when I was taking biochem in college, at the very end of the course, one of the things we covered in like the last week before exams was the effect of various diets on the body. We covered Atkins, we covered keto, and we also covered starvation and what happens to the body during starvation. And the thing is, all of these things are just biochemical pathways. The body does what it can with what it has. If you're feeding it a regular 3-meal-a-day diet, certain things happen. If you're doing a keto diet, certain things happen. If you're doing what Warren's doing, other things happen. It's all just about channeling pathways.
The one thing I will say, there's the big study about people who are starving and how they all gained back more weight than they lost.
Right.
Part of that was they miscalculated the amount of calories they were giving these people. And they gave them more calories.
Way more.
It was not that they broke their metabolism.
No.
It's that they were feeding them more food than they realized they were. Now, 50 years later, we still talk about people breaking their metabolism.
Right.
I'm like, you would think, listening to these people, that it would be impossible to starve, because if you stop eating, you're going to gain weight.
Right.
So, take all of that, the set points, all of that.
What they knew at the time.
Right, and what they know now. But there are people now who still swear by it. I mean, if you want to know anything you want proof for, somebody on the internet's going to tell you you're right.
Yep.
No matter what it is. So, I don't want to give any advice on weight loss or any of that, because there's so many different things. I just know that when I do the intermittent fasting, and I do a lot of really... I either run intervals or, which is you run at full speed as fast as you can for 30 seconds and then walk for a minute and a half.
Yep.
And I do that 8 to 10 times.
Yep.
Or I set it at 4 miles an hour and 5 on the incline and then burn those 2 versus like if you just run for a half hour, your body will start burning muscle.
Yeah.
Whereas if you run intervals, or you do this where you're almost running but not quite, your body only burns fat. This is stuff that they've done studies on. So, I'm in the middle of that because I'm hoping that I will not continue to be round wine-faced guy. I mean, I was drinking wine 3 to 5 nights a week. Now I'm drinking it on the nights when we do this. Literally, I had 2 glasses of wine this week because my wife and I were off celebrating our 28th anniversary. So
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. The wine there was okay. It was an Napa Cab.
Yeah.
$80 they charged me for my $25 bottle of okay Napa Cab.
The spread looked amazing, though. I mean,
whether
or not the wine was good. And he posted a picture on Facebook, and
the restaurant, and they have a very good wine list. I just, they have one of my favorite, which is Ashbone. Vinge Ashbone Napa Cab. They're also the ones that do Honors. Honor. I forget the name after their dog named Honor. Honors something or other. Oh well, we'll leave that one out. We'll delete that. But they do a number of wines. It's a $150 bottle, and I really, really like it. Well, they were charging $450 for it. Okay. I called attention to the waitress because one of the things I want them to do. I'm not trying to be an asshole to the waitress and go, this is you're charging $450 for this $150 bottle of wine. Now it isn't that I don't think they know it. Right. It isn't that I want to just be a jerk and give them a hard time about it. No. What I want is the guy who's making the orders to understand that in today's world, people now know what that bottle retails for. And if we know, we're not paying you that much. Right. Your dude's making, if he charged me $200 for that $150 bottle of wine, I'd have purchased it. Yep. And he'd had a bigger profit than the one I did buy. He would have. But people want that 3 times when they do it. So whenever I'm in a restaurant where they're charging 3-4 times that, and I pull it up on my Vivino app, I always say to them, I really like this wine. I would have ordered it, but I'm not paying quadruple retail for it. I know that you can't get it for the same price the retails do, because in many states they actually have a restaurant price, so that restaurants must pay more than grocery stores, but not that much. Not that much more. Not that much. It's like 5 or 10%. Right. Yeah. No. But they're charging 300% more, and I'm like, no. This is not as extreme as what you're talking about, but kind of similar. And I thought about you at the time because it's about a bourbon that we both like. I was in Nashville and I was at the Brooklyn Bowl, and they're charging $11 a glass for Buffalo Trace. And Buffalo Trace. I don't even like Buffalo Trace. I like Buffalo Trace. I know you do. I know you do. Many people do. But the thing is that Buffalo Trace is a $6-7 glass bourbon. Right, it's an inexpensive one. It was the only one I could find in England. Yep. Ireland. It was the only one in Ireland. Knob Creek was $10. So Knob Creek's the better by far.
Absolutely, and so it was a really, really easy choice for me.
Right.
But I was just standing there going, how many people have bought the Buffalo Trace because it was $1 more? And they're like, I like Knob Creek, so, all it is scarcity. It's just scarcity. It's not quality. Not that Buffalo Trace is a bad bourbon. It's not, but it's not $11 a glass good.
No.
In fact, Knob Creek is usually $6 to $8 a glass.
Knob Creek's considerably better than Trace bourbon.
I was in a massive urban center. I understand everything's higher there in general. Those servers have to pay their rent the same as I do. And I wasn't there for very long. Mm-hmm. So I ordered the Knob Creek at $10 a glass with a clear conscience, but I just found myself thinking, this is one of those things that irks me. That its allocated nature does not make it more expensive. It just makes it harder to get. And
right,
you're passing on that on as an opportunity cost.
Van Winkle. Mm-hmm. I'd say it might be worth double the cost
of regular
of Knob Creek or Woodford or Four Roses.
Your standard higher end or better bourbon.
I've seen it for $100 a pop for a shot, a 1 ounce pour in restaurants.
Yeah. The other thing to note about bourbon is that the same rules that apply to wine don't apply to spirits, because when you open a bottle of wine, it
immediately starts oxidizing.
Exactly.
Whereas that doesn't
bourbon
happen
doesn't.
with the bourbon, yeah.
So I understand restaurants have to make their money back, and liquor markups are a great way to do that. It really, really makes my heart happy, and I'm more likely to support a restaurant where they're like, to give another shout out to Dogtown here in Floyd, charges $6 a glass for Four Roses small batch. Finding a small batch bourbon at that price per glass is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an idiot. I paid the $100 for the shot.
You're not an idiot. You were curious.
My father-in-law, he's a big bourbon fan. It was like one of the few things that we had in common when we met, because he's a deeply conservative Southern man, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm not.
You were neither of those two things.
So the fact that we have bourbon together, so I took him out for that, and we each got one. Now I will say this goes back to my science fiction thing. Is my wife's dad, the whole family did not want Warren, this guy, walking in and stealing their beautiful daughter and walking off with her.
The Yankee trope.
But I walk in and I meet him, and he likes science fiction. Now I published science fiction at the time, and I spot a book called Infinity Hold by Barry B. Longyear, which is a great book, by the way. You love science fiction, go read that. It's really good. It is the first book in what is now a trilogy.
Okay.
And I'm talking to him, and I'm like, oh, you liked Infinity Hold? He said, that's my favorite book of all time. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I've got the sequel. He's like, oh, I didn't know there was a sequel. I'm like, well, I haven't been published yet. I'm publishing the sequel in my magazine. So that was one of the first conversations I had with
Nice and rude.
So yeah, it was really nice. His favorite author's favorite book.
Yeah.
I had just purchased the sequel to serialize in my Hard SF magazine, which I then did, and he loved it. But that was just
bourbon.
And then bourbon. So that's all I got in common with the guy. We like some of the same science fiction writers and bourbon, and so I try to have as much bourbon with him as possible and talk science fiction. I don't want to talk politics.
The nice thing is for me is that although I was born in the South, I'm actually only a quarter Southern. I'm half Irish, quarter Southern, and my grandfather is actually from Massachusetts, much further west than Warren. He was basically like 20 minutes from the New York line. I asked my dad.
Pretty close to the New York line where I grew up.
Okay, well
I'm closer to
from the southern side, right?
West.
Oh, okay. So Greenfield is that close to Lee?
Yeah, it's not far from me. It's also close to Pittsfield. I thought
Greenfield was further east.
If you stay on no, it's quite far west. You stay on. I think you got Barrington and a couple of other places are Barrington, yeah, and so if you stay on Route 2, it goes through North Adams, Pittsfield, and then you're in New York.
My mental map of Massachusetts.
No, I have an upstate New York accent because I grew up so much closer to New York,
right?
To the capital of New York. Schenectady is right there. I can be in Schenectady in less than an hour from my hometown. And it's an hour and a half to Boston, so I don't park the car.
Right. Well, that's only Boston. Nobody.
All the way out to Fitchburg, man.
Really?
Gardner.
Yeah,
all the way to
Dorchester.
Gardner,
Yeah.
and the people in Athol and orange.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of it. They can go either way.
See, the thing is I've met very few people from Massachusetts who have that accent. Most of the people I've met from Massachusetts have an accent similar to yours. Maybe some of them, if they're closer to the Vermont, New Hampshire end, have that like
shot
main.
me a deer. Yeah, it was a big one.
Yeah,
went out hunting.
Little
and
bit of that bird.
I couldn't help myself. I shot that big one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I cannot
get
do
that from here.
I can't do the main bird to save my life, but I know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But my grandfather was from Lee, Massachusetts, and I asked my dad how it was, because the thing is my grandfather and grandmother got married in the 40s, and if it's a big deal now, it was even bigger deal back then. And I said, what was the general reaction in the family when Grandma got married to a Yankee? And he said, I think overall that they were just happy that she got married to an Anglican.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, my family up in Massachusetts are Irish who came over in the 1815 maybe?
Right after
they weren't
the
part of the
they weren't part of the potato famine.
They weren't part of the potato famine. They came over on their own without the potato famine pushing them here.
Plenty of reasons to leave Ireland.
Plenty of reasons, mostly British.
Yes.
But and then then the other parts were the Weeks who came over on the Mayflower, and the Lymans who'd been here at least since the 1600s, based on what my wife has been able to find doing the
genealogical research.
Massachusetts
is a really interesting confluence, because it was founded by Puritans who contrary to popular belief, the Puritans were not anti-Catholic in the sense that they thought Catholicism was wrong. They wanted to purify the church. They wanted to cleanse it.
Now, mind you, one of the first things they did when they get to Massachusetts was hang as many Quakers as they could get their hands on.
Yeah,
so
those apostates.
It's not like they were exactly.
No! I'm not putting Puritans up on a pedestal, but there's this idea that like Puritans were not the same as Protestants. They were they had similarities that they were protesting, because the whole word Protestant means protesting the evils of the church.
The Reformation.
Yeah,
stuff,
exactly.
Yeah.
But the Puritans were different. It's that to their mind, the original intent of the Catholic Church was fine. They just needed to get back to it. And then the hating the Pope and popery and popish affectations became a whole thing, and then it really was a separatist movement. But then, you fast forward 200 years, and the descendants of the Puritans, who became Congregationalists or just left the church entirely, are all of a sudden cheek by jowl with Irish Catholics, and they would have been murdering each other 200 years beforehand. The Battle of Drogheda, where Cromwell did his best to subjugate the Irish as best he could. Cromwell.
Disaster. Well, enough politics.
Enough
even if
politics.
It is ancient politics.
I don't think that we have any Cromwell supporters watching our channel.
Probably we
I
aren't
really
going to
hope
lose
not.
anyone to that. Probably not.
And if you are the one Cromwell supporter, we're not sorry.
I feel like this is like the first time we've done where we're not really laughing. I'm sorry, folks, for whatever reason. I had a migraine earlier today. I get migraines mostly. I don't have much of a headache going on. Mostly in my case, I get the ocular migraine, so I've got these kind of halos with these really pretty flashing colors and jagged lines. Reminds me a lot of New Mexico artwork from the Aztecs and stuff. So I'm a little off my game.
I think the thing is that if the wine blows us away immediately, we probably have a completely different emotional tenor.
Well, I was surprised by this one because it's one of my favorite wines, and this particular bottle. We've told you that if the bottle isn't, we're still going to go, and we did.
Well,
but I do want to make it really, really clear. This is my 12th bottle.
Yes.
And the other 11 were fantastic.
And this one was also good.
And this one was just good.
Yes. So the fact that Warren is disappointed doesn't mean the bottle was bad. It just means it went from excellent to
because if I hadn't had the other 11, I'd have been pretty happy with this one.
So that the perspective is everything, really.
Perspective is absolutely everything.
So, on that note,
thank you for joining us. Sorry, this one's probably a little shorter than we've done before. We appreciate you. Keep hanging out with us. Start looking on the website, and we'll give you a list of the wines coming so that you can go ahead and get yourself a bottle and drink along with us. Again, we're your buddies. We drink and we know things, and we want you to know things. So we're going to keep on sharing them.
And we're going to go to a lot of interesting places.
Yes. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
See you next time.